barrels. We like to do something fun with them. So we had a beer put in it. So we're doing a little beer launch April 12th at the shop, 5 p.m. A little tasting, still some spots left for that. What else is coming up? Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, blinded by bargains. These are some SMWS bottles from the past year, maybe 2023, 2024, that are going on sale. We've got special pricing on them. That'll be a fun tasting. And if you're in town and you want to do a recap of our Kensington casks, we've pulled together a little lineup there. I'll kind of clear up the spoiler here, or I think I will. Actually, Carney or Evan, do you guys remember what the plus question mark is, or was that like a to be determined?
I just kind of assumed it would be the Bridgeland cask, but it could be something else.
Well, I think that's a fine one to put in there. And one last one I'll highlight just because it's also coming up. We've got an Isla festival coming up April 24th. 100 Isla whiskeys and what we like to call Isla alternatives, peated whiskeys from somewhere else, but not Isla. And I suppose, Evan, while we're at it, I mean, you brought up the Bridgeland cask. Might be kind of fun to just quickly mention that
Yeah.
because, you know, like a lot of retailers, we're noticing the bourbon in our store isn't selling quite like it used to. But if you're looking for something bourbon-esque, great alternative. We collaborated with our friends at Bridgeland, and we have done their highest proof, oldest aged barrel of what they call their Tabercorn bourbon ever. Bottled for our shop. It's pretty banging. I even took a bottle home. I know that'll surprise some people, not being the bourbon guy. I have tried it both neat and in a cocktail, and have to say it did the trick. Not suggesting this is probably cocktail whiskey. Harmony and Evan would certainly say it's not, but barrel proof bourbon, pretty good. Evan, did you want to say anything more about that since, you know, captive audience and all?
I'm just happy that they did the no non-chill filtered, no coloring added, and no tariffs on the back of the label. I thought that was
Yeah.
a nice touch.
Yeah. And we released it on, well, what we thought was called Tariff Day, but it ended up being called their Freedom Day, or the Cost of Freedom Day might be a better determinant there. But I think the other thing that's kind of cool, and Evan, I don't know that they've normally done this, but there's a little maple leaf on the top of it as well. Was that our
Yeah,
idea or their idea? It
I think that was theirs. It was a good call.
was a good call. Nice little addition. Anyway, you're all here tonight for our Gordon MacPhail, Benromach collab tasting. We've got our friend James Bornn from Authentic Wine and Spirits here to help us with it. And we've got a pretty cool lineup tonight too. I mean, the two KWM casks are, to be fair, really cool, but I mean, there's also a 1996 Longmorn in there, three Caol Ilas in total, including one that's even older than the Kensington cask in 1998. Yeah, James, my staff, when I showed them this lineup, are like, dude, what if people like those other Caol Ilas more than ours? Which
It's possible.
it's possible. I don't know that it'll be the case. I mean, I suppose the one saving grace in that is there's not very much of that other Caol Ila 98 left.
Yeah.
I don't know if
No,
we
you know what? The thing that occurred to me looking at this is something that happens every year when the BC Liquor Board does their big spirit release is I'll quite often go outside and wait outside the doors and just chat with like the average people that are standing outside. Common thing that happens is people will say like, "Oh, I've got $1,500 and I don't know what I'm getting." Like that's super common in BC. I think you'd be less likely to see that in Alberta. But this kind of feels like if you had a situation like that and you walked into your store and just like walked back to that cool wall and were like, "Oh, this looks good," and kind of
James,
grabbed one of everything.
I have a solution for those people. Spend $150 on a return WestJet ticket to Calgary when it's on sale, and we will make that money go even further.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that we'll just leave that where it is. So
Yes.
we're going to start off tonight with something that I think is fair to say is a little outside the spectrum of everything else in tonight's lineup. Um,
Don't sleep on it though, Andrew.
yeah, well, I mean, did you get more of this?
Well, you know what? A bunch of these, as some people may know, some of these distillery label bottlings kind of got kiboshed during a previous regime. And the idea was to hold on to some of the whiskey and, maybe it might be more valuable at a future date. But I mean, these things are absolute bargains. But all
Mhm.
of a sudden, I have access to a bunch of them. So our
Oh,
good friend, the Longmorn 15 is coming back. The Strath
nice.
Isla is coming back. All of them are finding their way back to Alberta in the next 6 months. So this is kind of yeah, this is the one kind of blazing the trail for that
Nice.
category.
Do you think we might see those old, like, would they redo those old Strath Isla 25 or 30s?
Yes. Well, I think we're going to see some stuff like that this year as well. I
Incredible.
absolutely do. Yeah, you're going to
I,
see some like old school, like old dusty distillery label bottlings that are going to be well priced.
incredible.
But I mean, yeah, we're already here. Yeah, basically this is 15-year-old Glentauchers and it's $120.
Yeah, and I think that when this came in, James, like I think I just emailed you one day and said, "What's this?" And you're like, "Oh, we didn't get very much of it." I think there was like one case left, and I bought it, and we thought it would be a good kind of palate cleanser opening whiskey for the lineup tonight. But it's got a nice nose. It's soft, it's
Yeah.
floral, it's fruity, a little bit of waxy notes in there as well.
Yeah, I mean some of the older Glentauchers that has come down the pipe, has been interesting, but as, if you're looking for distillate led Glentauchers, probably the younger ones to me are a little bit more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're talking bourbon cask, um,
Yeah.
because I don't know, the young sherry Glentalkers are fine, but you're not going to get a good sense of the distillate there because the sherry tends to be fairly active.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like your 20-plus-year-old Glentauchers cask is a lovely cask, but not because of the distillate. Like that was just a really lovely sherry cask that found
exactly.
its way into the lineup.
It's got a nice s'mores note to it, like graham wafer,
Yeah,
slightly
Graham
tinged
is a
marshmallow
good
and
note.
chocolate. Well, let's give
But
it a
yeah,
taste.
when you get that type of fruity note from Speyside whiskey, I mean it's just a really, really classic note.
Mhm. Great mouthfeel on that.
Mhm.
Lots of nice fruit.
It's maybe a little bit spicier than I was expecting, but I'm gonna guess by the time we get to the speed round, that's gonna blow off.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting comment that I would maybe make about that is, you know, they probably bottled this because they didn't want to leave it that much longer. Um,
Yeah.
it's pretty active. Like you're not getting any of that bitterness coming from the wood. You're
Mhm.
right. There's this nice kind of decadent spice tone creeping in there. But I think if you left this in the cask a little longer, you might have got something a little over extracted.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me of a note that one of the Urquharts made in one of the tastings we did, where they were talking about their discovery range and how they bottled a little bit more of this kind of spirit in like first fill bourbon barrels. Because I think they thought that like discovery was kind of going to be maybe a little bit of a bigger thing than it was. And I wonder if, some of this liquid may have been,
Mhm.
originally destined for a distillery labels like the Green Tube
Oh.
Glentalkers. Who knows?
Well, speaking of which, do you think we'll see that range go away?
Um, I don't know. It's very popular in some places. I think because it's 43% chill filtered, it hasn't really caught fire because it's kind of weird because it's kind of this product that is like targeted as like being a daily drinker for a more nerdy, enthusiast type drinker. But yet it's 43%, which in Alberta, like those two things don't mix.
Yeah, and I mean, also, I guess the other point with that would be like your choices for quote unquote daily drinkers,
Oh
even
yeah,
up in
there's a
that price
million.
range. It's a tough. I
Yeah.
mean, they're competing against themselves with the Benromach 10 at that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the thing, right? If we were getting like Benromach 10 pricing, which I mean, maybe arguably you can argue this at 15, 16 years for 120 is getting close to that,
Yeah.
um but yeah, like the obviously the yeah, the discovery range kind of sits in a weird like in between.
Yeah.
But those bottlings are good. I mean, that Glen Grant 13, man, that is an absolute fruit bomb that is, it's reminiscent of this for sure.
Yeah. Harmony, Kurt, any comments on this before we move on?
He means Evan.
Yeah, I get it.
Harmony or Evan, right? I I don't know. I just maybe I can't see from like here down. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a guitar.
Yeah,
Don't know.
I am holding my air guitar as we speak.
What about like
Um,
a Guitar Hero guitar?
yeah, I don't even have that, sadly. But it's nice. It's pretty damn smooth. It's actually a really nice starter before going into cast strength whiskeys like we are, I think.
Heck yeah.
It's very crushable. There were 4 bottles. Someone's already ordered one of them, so there's now only 3. Just saying.
No, I'm sure like the rest of any other Gordon MacPhail tastings we do virtually the rest of the year, one of them will be started by that Strath Isla when it comes, and one of them will be started by that Longmorn. That's how it's gonna work.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of which, shall we transition on to the Longmorn?
Yes.
And getting a bit of an interesting note on this one right off the bat. It's kind of got like a nail polish vibe to it.
Yeah, it does. Reminds me a bit of like pool cue chalk a little bit too. I don't know why I got a whiff of that.
Oh,
It's just some like it's just a spectrum of like solvent material that is there. But then also like powdered sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I certainly don't think of Longmorn as distillate that has, like a bunch of foreshots or feints in it.
No. Yeah, it's an interesting no. Here, let me pop this up on the screen. Seems we have not taken our own photo of this yet. We've got the quote unquote high res G&M photo as a stand-in for now.
Yeah, you know where those come from, right?
From their website.
That's from Jimmy's copy of Photoshop.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll forgive
Always
them.
professional.
Yeah, but I'll forgive them for these low res photos because I mean they do a ton of single casts. If they took a photo of every single one of them, like at a certain point, like they would need a full-time employee for the world just to do the photos. Although on another level, it kind of surprises me they don't do that. But 54.8%, 27 years in a refill American hogshead, which is really interesting. Because I don't know about you, but I might have guessed this was some kind of sherry seasoned cask based on the nose.
Yeah, I think you'd have a tough time, even that it was a first fill American oak hogshead. There's some elements that make the wood seem quite active too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that I ordered blind. I had not tried it. There wasn't really many notes. But it's rare that I've had 20-year-old Longmorns that were ever boring.
Yeah.
So it was worth a gamble.
It's not boring. Actually, the palate is more interesting, I think, than the nose.
Yeah, agreed.
The nose is kind of like an assorted German fetishes shop would be how I describe it. Like there's like all kinds of candies and things that like most normal people would never want to eat because they just smell and look so weird.
Totally.
But then there's like all kinds of latex and other paraphernalia in there too.
Yeah, it's like when you walk into like a weird section of Uniqlo and it's like, is that the product that I'm smelling or the packaging? I'm not even sure.
You know what? It does smell like Uniqlo. I've only been in there once. I got a good pair of jeans, but I also found it to be a traumatic experience because it was overload. Like you go into any other clothing store and things are spread out. It's all like, it's like a bookstore. It's like the bookstore equivalent of a clothing shop.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it's got just enough kind of interesting things going on. Like it does pull you back.
Well, funny, the palette's got these nice tropical tones, but like dancing around the edges, you've got there's still a little bit of that solvent nail polish note, but it's not really as much. It's just really tons of fruit and caramel.
I don't know. I've had bottles like this, not necessarily from G&M. Usually it's from, other just sources from more like kind of tired casks where you kind of have an experience like this drinking it first, you're like, okay, there's solventy notes, there's funk, there's oxidation, balsamic. And then you might come back to the bottle when it's half done in 6 months and all the solvent notes are gone and it's just a fruit
Mhm.
bomb.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't shock me if that's the lifespan of this bottle. But who knows? That's
I
that's part of the mystery.
I think this is one of those ones that'll get better the longer it's in the glass.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the fruit will come forward more.
And I think even just going over that, you know, solventy notes on the nose, like
Yeah,
there's
we're
just
making it sound worse than it is. It's, some people that aren't used to that might not even detect that.
it's very closed. Like when you really approach it,
Yeah.
there's caramel tones, it's nutty, but it's like a white wine that for whatever reason needs oxidation. It needs to be decanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, people don't know what like old Burgundy, white Burgundy tastes like, but there's like some very similar notes with like old white Burgundy on the
Yeah,
nose.
we've had people come in and try and tell us their wine's corked because it smells like this, and it's like, that's
Yeah, and
not
you're
corked.
like,
That's something different.
and then you're trying to think like, where can we get like 6 buckets of mussels into the store in the
Yeah.
next 40 minutes before this wine goes sour?
Yeah. Well, that's what was I my wife and her parents were drinking I can't remember what it was right now, Spanish white wine. And they're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." And it's like, "Well, yeah, that's a food wine. Like
Yeah,
that's for drinking with seafood. That's
yeah.
not something that you just like maybe if it's 30 degrees outside, you would have a glass of that on its own."
Right? Like when they pulled the barrel that had that white wine in it out of the cellar, like 600 spiders lost their home.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting. Palate's
Yeah.
lovely. But
Yeah,
let's
let's
move
move on to
on.
something that is also weird.
Yeah, well, we were having a little chat about this. Maybe we won't like kind of preload it. Let's just go in and taste this, see what people think about it, and then we can pontificate about what's unique. Although Harmony and Evan, I don't know if either of you wanted to say something nice about the last whiskey. He's just laughing. Evans jumped in.
Yeah, I don't mind it actually. There was a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society bottle from, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. We had a slew of teenage Longmorns that came through, and it reminds me a little bit of one. It's a little less juicy, but one called the Indian Spice Train, that had these sort of spicy exotic notes to it. That was really good, and this has hints of that, but it's definitely at further along age-wise than that one was.
I thought you were going to say for a moment they're further east, and maybe it was like a reference to a wet market.
There you go.
But
Maybe the big takeaway is that if you think about kind of, to me, I always put Glenelgin and Benromach and Longmorn, like they are kind of in the same family flavor-wise. This
mhm,
is an outlier
yeah.
from the majority of casks of those three distilleries that I've had over my
Mhm.
life.
But also think of James from Gordon MacPhail. Think of all the Longmorns we've had, even the older ones. They're almost all sherried. Like
Yeah,
we get almost no refill American oak Longmorn, and that might have something to do with it.
yeah. All right.
Um,
Well, you're not gonna have to try too hard to dig deep into your tasty notes in whiskey number three.
no, but I mean, just because it's pretty cool, I'm going to share it. Courtesy of Jeff Serja. Um, I mean, this is the power of AI. I'll let you all download that yourselves and um, see what you think. It's pretty good. So yeah,
I would
James,
drink that.
Lecheg or Ledcheg or
Yeah.
well, we're not going to call it
Yeah,
Led.
what is it that the whiskey heathens, how they pronounce Ledaig? Have you ever heard Josh say this?
No.
I think he calls it Ledaig.
Is he trying to class it up?
Yes.
So, James, tell us a little bit about this because it's a cask
Yeah,
Lecheg selected by and bottled in the name of the whiskey heathens. Maybe
totally.
people here know who they are. Maybe they don't if they're not on
Yeah, no, it's
Instagram or
kind of a long
TikTok.
story, but I'll give some context to it because it might give you some ideas and hints of some other bottlings that are coming. But in the early days when we had the brand, and I went and talked, and there's a lot of stores that didn't carry any Gordon MacPhail, and they basically told me like all the interesting Gordon MacPhails go to Kensington Wine Market. I heard that like from like 12 different people independently. So yeah, good for you guys. I mean, that says a lot, and that's why you still continue to get offered the good casks. But one of the decisions we made to try to fix that was that when we would get offered exclusive casks that were like special, like the ones that people would really line up for, that we were going to split them across the market. So you would still, get offered your allocation, but a lot of these other stores, it was a way for to like open the door to them, to the brand, and even like bringing new customers. So we would bring those in and call them Canada exclusives. And we've done probably like 7 or 8 of those over 5 years. And then we ended up doing one of them for, instead of doing it that way, we actually put the name of Mike Brisebois' Whiskey Explorer Club on one of them. And as soon as that happened, I kind of got a flood of all sorts of people that wanted their club's name on like a market release. And it's worked really well because, I think at the end of the day, if these whiskeys are interesting and or good, people don't really care if it says like,
No.
it could say like puppy time on the front. No one cares. They just want to drink whiskey.
You should test that theory one time and just make something up and put it on a cask.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's been a couple that have been rejected. Let's just put it that way.
By Gordon MacPhail?
I
Well,
would,
we've had to adapt a couple of them, but yeah. Anyways, I know that Josh and the Whiskey Heathens, like they've always had an affinity for Ledaig, and I don't think they'd ever had their own official bottling. And when I was there, actually talking to the guys in the lab, it was something that I mentioned that like we have a market for interesting Ledaig specifically in Alberta, and there's kind of this like cult following for the distillery, and they looked at me like I was like insane. Like in their mind, it's like a bottom shelf, bottom tier malt, right?
They're probably thinking like, are there a lot of like Northern Europeans living in Alberta?
Yeah, there might be, right? Yeah, we like basically 10,000 generations of eating fermented fish that was like locked and yeah, it's trickled down. So basically what happened is I got my cask samples last year, and there was a flag on one of them that the Ledaig had been pulled specifically for the Canadian market. And man, I put my nose in this and I was like, oh boy, I know the exact guy that wants his name on this bottle. So sure enough, sent it to him and he loved it. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. All right. Let me
So I
pop
think
up
they
this-
purposely went out and found something interesting rather than just, a traditional pick.
Right. So the interesting thing about this Ledaig is it's nowhere near as dirty and, dare I say, offensive on the nose and palate as this distillate can be.
Oh, that is such high praise from Andrew Ferguson. Well, there's no doubt that this has, if you are the type of person that likes eating fermented fish and there's just this like undescribable element of like saltiness and savory that you're like, I don't know why, but I just love it. Like that's what this Ledaig is like. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of weird, but it's like delicious. It's like salty and tangy.
Well, James, granted you did say fermented, but there's a long distance between like canned sardines and surströmming.
Right?
Like it's a pretty big gulf.
Yeah, well, we're somewhere on that spectrum here.
Yeah, we're not at the far end of it, but we're somewhere along that.
Yeah.
Incidentally, have you ever tried it? I've actually wanted to try it just to see if I could actually eat it with
Yeah, there's a Scandinavian deli near my house actually.
Oh,
It's about as far away as Doc Swinson's. You guys got to invite me next time you go. Dang it. Um, but yeah, I've seen it on the shelf there, just never had the courage.
incidentally, there's a joke about you joining us at Doc Swinson's. I could make, but I won't. Evan probably knows what I'm talking about. We'll just leave it there. Let's talk about this particular bottling because it's sherry cask, but it doesn't come across overly sherried. And
Yeah.
it's a first fill sherry hoggy. So
Yeah, it feels like, is there a chance here that this whiskey is neither a sherry cask, neither a Tobermory? Like,
yeah, so just on that first note, on the palate, I can see a bit of sherry notes creeping in, but if you're talking just the nose, I don't see it. Evan, I can tell you're dying to say something, so you're
Yeah,
unmuted.
it's really cool stuff. Like it's almost missing the tire fire that I expected on the nose. Like it's very muted and almost Tobermory-esque, where it's just got these like almost like the can of fried onions
Yeah,
note
there's some
to it, like that
sulfur.
you put on burgers. And then it gets really fruity actually on the palate, which is really cool too.
Yeah. The let's just quickly talk about it. Like, do either of you guys get much in the way of peat from this?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
explicitly. I mean, I think we're so tied to the smoke as being the center of that taste profile, but it's almost like there is peated elements, but more, it's not like an explicit smoke character.
Harmony?
Yeah, there's like a funk. I think Kevin alluded to it earlier that he gets the Tobermory funk off of this. There's definitely something going on. I said wet dog as well. A little bit. Like there's a musty dungeon kind of something going on that it's a little bit more than Tobermory, but it's not all the way Ledaig either.
There's definitely peated malt on the palate, like, and you get it on the finish, but it's subtle. I mean, it's like I would even
It's
say this is like a Benromach level of peat. Like it's a very low
yeah,
level
Yeah.
yeah,
of peat
that's
content,
good.
Yeah,
and
the
it
Benromach 21 is like very reminiscent in terms of the peat character.
and there's no trace of like those medicinal tones in it. So
No,
one of the
Yeah.
things we
the
were
rubber.
talking, yeah, no rubber notes. Uh, like for me, like I know that blue cheese has already technically gone bad, but like it's like when blue cheese normal has like really gone bad. Like that's what Ledaig reminds me of. And like I think I've said used catheter tubing in the past. Um, but I'm not getting those. We were talking about this a little before in the tasting. One of the tricky things with Ledaig is that there's been a history in the past of Tobermory unpeated casks being labeled as Ledaig. And a lot of this goes back to, I think, before the 2000s. The distillery was never really being put forward as a single malt. It was a whiskey being made for blends, tiny little distillery, and changes of ownership, all that stuff. And there's like a history of people getting Ledaigs like from the 1990s, and they're like, there's no peat, there's no medicinal notes. What is this? And yet they're labeled as Ledaig.
Yeah, I think GNM probably does have some of those. Yeah, I mean, there's, as you know, like within a month, there's a 30-year-old coming in, and like who even knows what's in that bottle? But someone's gonna find out.
Yeah. Harmony, any thoughts on this?
I really enjoyed it. I really like the palette. I like how it feels. I like the finish. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I wrote this up because the distillery's old, 1798. I was just going back to look at it. It was originally opened as Ledaig, and they didn't change the name to Tobermory until I believe the 1979. So, but then even then, like there's periods where they would use the names interchangeably and not to refer to a specific style. They were just like, because they weren't focused on single malts. I think Burn Stewart bought it around the millennium, and that's maybe when that focus started to shift. But production before that point is all over the map. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's got such a following. But this is probably fair to say not a Ledaig for people that really love Ledaig, of which we all know there's not very many. Like there's maybe a couple handfuls.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely this subset of people I think looking always for these types of whiskeys, whether they're from the Ben Nevises of the world or, Ardnam Merkin's probably filling a bit of that void now. But like I imagine there's some whiskey collections out there where people have like 50 or 60 bottles that are all on this spectrum, right? Like there's nothing
Mhm.
clean and easy on the shelf.
Yeah. Well, and just one last one that I'll bring in to touch on this. We're out of it now, but we had a Barry's Tobermory cask for the longest time.
Right.
And it was a beast. It was like 65.8% sherried. It was dirty, but not sulfured. I mean, if you would nose and taste it, like you could easily confuse yourself into thinking that it was peated, and it was not. But it was like an unpeated Ledaig, essentially. Like that is the only way to, and I think it just goes to show that probably until up to about 10, 15 years ago, the stuff they were producing there was so inconsistent and all over the map. And maybe that's part of its charm.
Yeah.
What's next here? We're going into some Benromach now.
Yes, we are.
So James, I think this was a market cask, wasn't it? Cask 34, Benromach 2003.
Yeah, I think this is a classic, like someone in the US asked to bottle this, but then took like a fraction of what they said they were going to take. And it got offered to us.
And I know we recently brought some in. Is this one that's nearly gone, or?
Yeah, I think this is the last case.
Yeah. So 2003 vintage, we've seen some glorious 2003s and 2002s, 19 years old, first fill ex bourbon, 59.1%. I mean, a lot of these stray into those, I love to say, like the old Brora notes, or even like heated bourbon cask Springbank, like some older bourbon, like bourbon cask long rows.
Yeah, and this has some of those signatures. They all seem to have this character where you're right, like there's this kind of layers of complexity on the nose, but then on the palate you get this like late flood of tropical fruit. And they've all, like the Cask 360, the Connoisseurs, of which, yeah, I put in the kind of, I have a side lineup because I'm kind of curious how they all compare as well. But yeah, they all kind of have some of that character to them, just on a different spectrum.
Just double checking this because it is now sold out. We've got 3 left. So if you like it, maybe don't rush too soon, because we've got another one to follow, another Benromach to follow. But yeah, all of these were good. So this wasn't, did this get labeled as a Canada cask, or was it just
No, it just
Just-
says, oh, it might say North American exclusive on
North
it.
American exclusive? Did I pop this one up on screen yet? Maybe I haven't.
Yeah. Holy
There it
cow,
is.
that's long.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these old Benromacs, they just have this like fan out character on the finish where it just like you
Mhm.
can't like swallow and then kind of think like, oh, okay, on to the next one. Like you kind of got to like give yourself 5 or 10 seconds to let it come.
Mhm. Oh man.
Yeah, isn't
What's
that
really cool about this is how malty it still is after 19 years. How well that malt holds up to the oak,
Yeah, first fill
oxidation,
bourbon.
the tropical tones. I mean, it's gorgeous. Elements of those tropical notes, but also like really like the fanciest vanilla icing you've ever had.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just silky.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like when you get that like orange taffy at like a premium candy shop at like a touristy spot.
Well, it's like if they were to ever use fondant in a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I always think when I'm at those fancy restaurants, like make sure you leave room for dessert because the most capable person in the kitchen might be like sitting bored at the end of the line, just like waiting for someone to order whatever creation they've spent like 16 hours of the day meticulously building.
Yeah. The smoke on there, really subtle. Like it's
Yeah.
got a weight to it, but you have to kind of work to get it. It's not overly peated. Nice little balance there. You know, distilleries talk all the time about how they try to get these signature notes. And I remember when Michael Urquhart, Richard's uncle, was coming to town and promoting Benromach, and this goes back to the like mid to late 2000s, and pushing the young Benromachs they had, but also the older ones they had, and the young ones repeated. And he said the 2 notes that we tried to preserve are oranges and chocolate. And the funny thing is, like, you do get like that orange citrus note, like does creep into almost all the Benromach bottlings. And they all also have this little like bit of a chocolate note to them too.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, I know that that was really like some of the decisions they made were all kind of pushing it in that direction. Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about this in tastings before, and we don't need to go over the top tonight, banging on about it. But you know, one of the things that one of the reasons why I think these whiskeys are so remarkable and so interesting is because of the level of care and attention that was put into making them when they reopened the distillery. You know, they bought it in 93. They took 5 years to rebuild it, rekit it, get it running the way they wanted it to run before they started producing. And, you know, I think for me, the biggest takeaway about Gordon MacPhail and Benromach is in almost everything they do, they don't rush into it. They take their time, they make sure it's done right, and they do it for the next generation. And, you know, obviously, you know, there's some things maybe in recent years that were slight missteps. But the interesting thing is, and James has heard this too, like the family members know that and are trying to steer it back to that because that was never their play.
Yeah, that would be my takeaway, is that there's just a level of discipline in the lab that is paying downstream dividends. You know, there's not an attitude of like, oh, ship it.
Yeah.
Like I always think of that scene in the movie Elf, where it's like there's pages missing and he just like is like, ship it.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like that temptation is for sure there.
Yeah. I can't remember what the end of that story was, but there's like a cat or a dog that no one knows if it gets home, right?
Right,
Something
yeah.
along those lines.
Someone's yelling. I'm sure Jeff knows.
But yeah, on that, I think that, you know, you talk about that, James, like with the casks, anything that they offer as a cask is something that they've pre-screened. And I think the difference there is other companies, you might say, hey, I want something like X, or I want something in price range Y, and then they work backwards from it and go to find it. Whereas Gordon MacPhail is going through what they have, and they're like, all right, these are good enough to bottle. And those are the only ones that they're offering out to people. They're not going and looking for things that they've not already decided are ready to go.
Yeah, I think like people should know that the casks that are bottled as single cask, which is most of the range, like those are screened blind and they're scored blind. So like I think that's the secret to their success, especially in the last like 5-6 years.
Some talk here in the chat about some signatory Benrinnes, I think, and Glentauchers. I think Evan mentioned the Glentauchers. There was a really lovely Glentauchers from signatory back in the day. We had a couple of batches of those. But yeah, lovely whiskey, tropical, almost gone. There's 3 bottles left, but obviously we want you to like this one more because there's more of it. This is the new 2002 Kensington cask, arrived not too long ago. Let me put this one up on screen. This was, I think, or at least is for right now, is this the oldest one that's ever come, James?
As far as I know, this is the oldest Benromach cask that's ever been bottled.
There you go. So that's kind of fun.
At least since the restart.
Yeah. 21 years.
Yeah, it's just I think it's 2 months older than Cask 360.
Right. And 57.9, first fill ex-bourbon again. What do we think of the new 2002?
Well, it is divergent. I knew you're going to love this one. I mean, it's just like, especially on the palate, it's like it just comes at you in waves.
The nose
This
is
the
immediately
Nathan McKinnon of Benromach's.
Nathan McKinnon. He is a relentless,
Right? You imagine being a defenseman and going into the corner with that guy? That's kind of what this feels like.
The nose is very Kleinlich-esque. Like it's got this thick honey, like creamed honey, waxiness to it. Oh,
Yeah, again, there's kind of those layers of,
yeah.
like you said, the waxes and the sweets, but it's just like it's just very, very well put together.
Yeah, it's waxy, tropical, honeyed, and gently smoked. I mean, this is, I think the only difference between this and those brewers that we used to see is those brewers had a bit more spice. This is a
Yeah.
little softer and a little bit more approachable.
But I mean, I would argue, and I know this is just sounds ridiculous, but like these Benromachs fan out across the back of the palate way more than those brewers did.
Mhm.
Like this like explodes with flavor.
Well, I think part of that, James, I mean, when you look at what those Brora parcels were, they were a lot of refill casks, especially refill butts. Those butts were probably American oak sherry, but they were still refill.
Yeah.
This is a single first fill bourbon cask, so you're getting more of that honey, more of that vanilla. And it's a nice little blanket, like a picnic blanket that you're gonna lay your tropical fruits, your candle on. Maybe it catches on fire, and that's where that little whiff of smoke comes from. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Evan nailed it. Like there's just a feel of like going from classical music to rock music, going from the '03 to the '02. Like even like it's amazing how the spice level's high, which if there was this much spice on the '03, it would feel unbalanced. But on this one, it works.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. The spice is starting to creep in. You can see the smoke is a little bit more prominent in there. There's a little bit of like an ashy peat. But yeah, beautiful cask. Thrilled to have it. And I believe this is our 6th ever Benromach cask, which is pretty cool. 4th in the modern era. By modern era, I mean current packaging. We had 2 that went way back. Evan, were you around when we did those 2 Benromachs like 12 years ago? 10, 12 years ago?
No, the tin ones were before my time at
Before your
KWM.
time. Yeah.
I know, doesn't it make you excited for like what are these going to look like when they start hitting like 24, 27, 28? Like there's going to be some pretty wild stuff.
I was just thinking that, like, I can't imagine like it's this good at this age. How can it get better
I
as
know.
it gets
You know
older?
what? Kudos for them too to have the discipline to not release the 98 to 2001 stuff that clearly is not the same quality level as this.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we would see it.
Either that or they're waiting to release it. They're waiting for
Well, yeah, I know Richard has mentioned that a lot more of that early stuff went into like those big double wall American oak sherry butts. So, which is, yeah, so that's stuff that'll end up in like 30 and 40 and 50-year-old bottlings down the road.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, coming soon to Kensington Wine Market.
Harmony, anything you wanted to add on that one before we move on?
I love it. I said I have in the chat. I said stuff about it. I was teasing that I enjoyed the cask so much that to hear my review, you'll have to join my OnlyDrams account.
OnlyDrams.
Yeah.
Someone
Someone said
should
that.
trademark and
I'm
start
stealing
that.
it. It would be great, but it's like I took a sip and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. Like, yes. Like that's perfect,
Yeah.
whiskey. Like I love it. I'm so glad that it's ours. Yeah.
OnlyDrams is a good one. I like that
Yeah.
name.
I did not come up with the idea. Someone else did, maybe Kevin.
Yeah,
Well,
that may
I
have
think
been
it's a
one of
little
the
Stealing
risky.
it.
G&M labels that was rejected.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think they would reject OnlyDrams cask?
Oh, man. Those guys have austere senses of humor.
I think if you explain it to them though, so it's not just like,
I'll let you do that, Andrew.
all right, we might try to do an OnlyDrams cask.
Don't
I
tell them their whiskeys are the O's of whiskey. Don't say that.
that I might not be cool enough for that particular reference.
No, I think what you do is you don't explain the where you're going or paying homage to with OnlyDrams, and just try and play on the idea that maybe everybody will be too embarrassed to actually
Yeah.
say that they know what it is an homage to.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, I think you could hide behind the fact that you only want to talk about whiskey. So,
That's true.
and or
Just like its sister bottling Dram Hub, right? Which that's where you go to talk about OnlyDrams.
Oh man, if you're looking to open a whiskey shop, Dram Hub would be a good name. So
So someone's gonna do it.
the marketing writes itself. So Evan, write these ideas down. They might be t-shirt worthy.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Dram Hub only does video reviews though, not photos.
What about like you could do an old school one where it only reveals things line by line?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the BBS version.
Yeah, for those of you who had to suffer through a BBS service in your teenage years before the internet, you know what I'm talking about. Orange, black and orange logo. There we go. All right.
Yeah, this smells like the ocean.
Yeah, Caol Ila,
Yeah.
keeping things moving along. All right, 2007 Caol Ila, 15 years old, first fill sherry, but 59.1%. Let's put her up on screen here. So it smells like the ocean, does it?
Yeah, very much a seashell character. The Caol Ila's, I'm always curious because of course the amount of storage space at Caol Ila is low. I wonder where the G&M Caol Ila's are, even historically, like where they matured. My gut is that a lot of them did sit in that warehouse. But I don't know. They've never
Or
revealed
Elgin.
that.
I mean,
Like it wouldn't shock me if like G&M Caol Ila's were like matured at Bunnahabhain over the years, or you know what I mean?
but I think the challenge is, I mean, we would need to look back on this. I don't know when they closed their filling store at Caol Ila. Like I would expect it was probably in the 60s or 70s.
Right.
So unless they went and filled it at Lagavulin, which is unlikely, I mean, the more likely one is that this is Caol Ila that, I mean, knowing Gordon MacPhail, they'd probably want it in their own warehouse, not in some
Mm.
palletized Diageo central storage facility.
Yeah.
So, you know, that'd be a good question to ask Richard. I mean,
Yeah, it is, and especially because like Caol Ila historically was one of the distilleries they filled the most of. So like there would have been a decent amount. Like so even like their own storage might not be the most likely answer either,
yeah.
just because of the volume.
But I mean, if you're James, if you're wondering this, and maybe you're wondering it because you find it's really coastal, I mean, this has been the great mystery
I
for me
know.
with Talisker is almost no
Yeah.
Talisker is matured on the island of Skye, and yet it tastes very maritime.
Mhm.
It spends 6 to 7 days there. Barley gets trucked in, milled, mashed, fermented, distilled, tankered away to somewhere between north of Glasgow and Edinburgh. Actually, I drove by one of their facilities. Like I think these things are big enough you can almost see them from space, these centralized warehouse
Oh yeah.
facilities they have. Jeff says they add salt.
I mean, kudos to whoever figures that out.
Well, in Jeff's defense, they did wrap their barrels in plastic at one point in time to try to save, evaporation. So who's to say they didn't like bathe them in salt water just to see what happens?
Maybe instead of shipping the barrels to the island, they just float them across, and then that's how they get their coastal influence.
James, will there be a BBC edition? I don't know if you've been following the chat.
I know it's getting out of control.
Well, wasn't there a children's TV show that like maybe some of our younger participants watch called Big Comfy Couch? I mean, Who knows?
Look, I think that there is definitely some companies out there that are ready to pick up this idea. It's probably not Gordon MacPhail.
Okay. I have to focus on the tasting and not on the
Yeah.
chat, which is very enjoyable.
You know, you're in trouble when you see stuff where you can just see Angus McRailed say, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk about this Caol Ila. It's very decent. It's quite Caol Ila-esque. Nice citrus notes in there underneath like that tarry, ashy peat.
Mhm.
Reminds me when I was a kid, my parents, there was a period in when I was young when I would get candy coal in my stocking, which was like
Oh.
basically hard chunks of licorice. So reminds me a lot of candy coal right now.
Yeah, I can see that. It yeah, it definitely has that like citrusy freshness.
Mhm.
Kind of keeps it alive. Yeah, just a really good sherry cask.
Mhm. It's I think it's a good example of
Do you
just
think this is an American oak sherry cask?
yeah, especially since it's first fill. Like
Yeah,
I think it's more than likely that it's American oak sherry.
yeah.
I mean, and
Which works well with Caol Ila, clearly.
it does work well with Caol Ila. It does also make you wonder a little bit. Like I know we talk about Gordon MacPhail's casks, and I mean, could there have been periods where maybe they were buying stuff that other people had already casked? Because like this doesn't seem like a G&M first fill cask, but
Yeah.
could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean there it feels like there's been a bunch of these that have come down the pipe in the last 2 or 3 years. These sherry casks that are, less active than you think or than you would
Maybe
expect.
maybe there was a period when they were getting casks that weren't really quite up to their spec.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still lovely Caol Ila. It's just not as. I think the bottom line, I think what you're trying to say and what I'm trying to add on to is it's not as sherried as we would have thought. But is it a great Caol Ila? Yeah, this is a lovely Caol Ila, I think, for the price point, for the age.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would open this at home and be disappointed.
No, and I mean, if anything, it just shows you like how good 15-ish-year-old whiskeys can be,
Yeah.
especially if they're from Caol Ila. All right. The chat is on fuego, as they say, but I don't have time to do more than just skim it. What's next? 2002.
2002. Oh boy. And I think whoever worked at that high-end patisserie that you were talking about earlier has made a visit to this cask as well.
Oh, I do enjoy a high-end patisserie.
Yeah, just it smells like expensive baking that you buy once on your wedding day.
Well, it's a little
It,
bit like raw. It's like a little bit like raw croissant, like croissant dough. Like if you ever buy frozen croissant, like pre-rolled croissants from like a really bougie bakery, this is what it smells like just before you put them in the oven.
it's got notes of on the nose of the Longmorn, where it's just got a slight acetone, sort
Oh,
of like solventy note on the nose.
yeah, but if you go back to that Longmorn now, it's like rum raisin pudding.
Yeah. Yeah, and big time black licorice notes.
I mean, it's rum raisin pudding while your mom is like taking the nail polish off in the next room, but
Yeah.
the rum raisin pudding is pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
let's be honest, this is another one of those that feels like it desperately needs time and space to kind of come out of its shell.
The difference is like this is
Whereas that 2007 doesn't need any time. It's just pop and
there you
pour.
go.
It does nose like it's getting a perm right now, so maybe it's got time.
It might be my glass, but this to me is much more tropical on the nose. It's going in that direction. And it reminds me, I don't know if anyone else got these, but my mom used to give my brother and I these big Laura Secord eggs at Easter. And like they were big enough that you like they were like a Cadbury cream egg, but I think slightly fancier. And then you would like cut them
Yes.
into slices. You know what the ones I'm talking about?
Oh, I know. I know
Yeah.
exactly.
This reminds me of like cutting into one of those giant Laura Secord eggs.
Yeah, I know exactly the ones. Um, Yeah, the year I lived in a fraternity, we did in second semester, someone realized that Cadbury cream eggs were for sale at Costco like the first week of January. And we had this challenge where everyone in the dorm had to eat a Cadbury cream egg every day the entire semester, which is like great for like 4, 5, 10, 11, 12 days. Man, I'll tell you right now, when you get to day 30, 40, 45, that is a grind.
Well, if you were offsetting that with like daily workouts, that would probably be okay at that age.
What do you think?
No, you're offsetting it with like daily beers. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cadbury egg was the workout.
There was one guy
Hmm.
in the fraternity that was just absolutely jacked. And in hindsight now, knowing his eating and workout regime, there's something fishy.
James, this fraternity side hasn't come out before. Which fraternity were you in?
Kappa Sigma.
Oh, in Calgary, we would have been mortal enemies.
Okay.
I was at Fiji.
All right.
Yeah, well, I guess I still am. I've got a tattoo on my ankle for God's sake. So yeah, were you at UBC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there to play junior varsity rugby, but that didn't last.
Yeah, I was in university to do junior varsity drinking. So back to the Caol Ila. I mean, it's interesting. There's like nice parallels to the Benromach in terms of those like creamy, decadent tropical tones, but this is a bit more firm peat. It's more maritime, obviously, because the other one had no maritime element to it.
Yeah,
Um,
it does feel like somehow in a weird way, the Benromach O2 and the Caol Ila O2, like they kind of belong together.
mhm.
I
Like
would
I don't
kind
really
of
even know if I can
disagree.
eloquate what that means, but they just do.
I mean, I agree and I disagree because I know that Benromach doesn't have coastal qualities, but it did remind me of that, and I
Yeah.
even wrote it down during my tasting notes.
Yeah,
So,
ironically, that Benromach probably did actually mature like not far from the ocean for all 20 years.
but it does have a lot of similarities. I'm really enjoying the finish on this Caol Ila. I'm getting like a lot of like bitter chocolate and like lots of tropical orange and orange oils and citrus, and it's
Mhm.
fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I think the bourbon cask is similar, like the actual wood, and that makes sense. I mean, this is G&M sourcing cask, putting spirit into their own wood. But yeah, they're not the same, but there's similarities to them there. And Harmony, your notes were good ones. I'm now going more into like Lagostine notes on the nose with this, like some nice seafoody tones.
Well, those people that walk into your store and have the Benromach in one hand and the Caol Ila in the other and are trying to decide, that's tough.
Yeah. Well, why decide one of
Yeah, the
each?
answer is yes.
Yeah, exactly. That the answer is yes on these.
All
It's
right.
got a little bit of that waxiness, not quite as much as the Benromach, but um yeah, really nice balling.
Mhm. Yeah, love it. Yeah, just the right strength too.
Mhm. All right, we'll try the 1998 now. I think this is the one that my staff or some of my staff were a little worried about. A little worried about it possibly blowing the 2002 out of the water. But
I
I
don't
think,
think so. I
well,
remember wanting more diversity than Caol Ila, and I love Caol Ila, but I'm like, look at all these new G&M barrels. We should do more.
well,
Yeah, in some
exactly.
ways, like this 98 Caol Ila almost has nothing to do with the O2.
It's
Like,
totally different. You can't
yeah, it's
compare.
like when the redhead child comes out and you're like, oh, I guess those genes are in there too. Like it's all come out different.
Well, it's because one of them is from the postman, right? Isn't that how that works?
You know,
With
I have a
royal
red-haired
genetics.
child, right?
Or you have a what, sorry?
I have a red-haired child.
Yeah, but aren't you kind of slightly reddish tinged?
This is how bar fights start.
Oh, like is that? I don't mean that as fighting
Future, you're
words.
in
Yeah.
Like
my stool.
my brown hair's got a reddish tinge to it. My daughter's hair has a reddish tinge to it.
By the way, it took the chat about 1.5 seconds to bring the OnlyDrams chat and tie it into the conversation that you and I just had.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is very different wood profile than the last two Caol Ilas we've had. It doesn't say it, yeah, first fill sherry, but 25 years.
Yeah,
50
this is not an American oak sherry cask.
No. And you're gonna spend a C note more on this bottle too. It's pretty nice
I mean,
though.
it's fun.
Nice dark chocolate tones in there, a little bit of tobacco.
Just like all sorts of dried fruit, prune and apricot. And then just like a whole boatload of baking spices. The baking spices almost overshadow the smoke for me. I'm not sure if I love that. I sounded like Sean there, didn't I?
That is about Sean's level of fussiness, yes.
Love you, Sean, if you're on. I don't even know if he's on this chat.
Damn, that's like our Ardmore. That's really old school sherry. I
Yeah,
really,
this is very reminiscent of your Ardmore, for sure.
yeah.
It
But I
also
mean,
has that like mysterious quality where like the ABV seems like 10 degrees lower than it is.
not just that, this tastes like some 1960s bottling of sherry Caol Ila that was
Yeah, it
25
does.
years old in the 1990s.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
God,
that's true. When people crack those like weird old independent bottles and you just have no idea what's about to come out, like this is usually what I'm prepping for.
James, remind me to tell you later a tasting note I don't want to share publicly for this one,
Mhm.
which people should read into that because I'm pretty open.
Yeah, the bar's already pretty high too tonight, so
Yeah, well, we'd be dropping it very low in this case, so we're gonna let that one slide. But yeah, I didn't think I would like this as much as I do, but holy shit, this is good.
So Andrew's starting his own OnlyDrams review account.
I don't
well,
know
and
that
it's
I'm
interesting, like
proud of you.
I don't know that there's people who'd pay for that though. So
it's kind of unusual that I think that's what the weird thing was about your Ardmore, and maybe it's because it was Ardmore, but casks like this don't show up on like the private cask list very often.
yeah.
Like I think that they are kind of conscious that this is a type of whiskey that just is not common in the marketplace anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. That one took, I mean, I knew it was gonna be good. I mean, it's G&M Caol Ila. How could it possibly be bad? But I mean, our cask is gorgeous. This one is next level. Holy crap. Like I got a couple of buddies, Doug and Devin, that routinely buy stuff at auction. And like most of it is like okay, a lot of it is like over oxidized. And then once in a while, some of these things are bangers. And this one reminds me of some of those like old independent bottlings from like 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, some of those probably were bottled without even being tasted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Damn.
It kind of reminds me of I think this would have been 7 or 8 years ago where we had the twin Caol Ilas. One was sherry and one was it was a sherry 2005 and then I think an ex-bourbon or refill cast 2002.
Mhm.
The final two drams are kind of like have that dichotomy that those two had to them.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta be
One
honest, if I was poured this blind, my first thought would be that there's Paxaret, but like clearly there's not. Although maybe once upon a time there was, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is the industry, Paxarat is banned, but is it? I mean, someone could just say they didn't do it and do it, and like, who's gonna check them after the fact?
Yeah. Yeah, I always wonder like what kind of stuff happens even like when they're prepping the casts in Spain at the last minute, and I don't know.
Well, and let me put this out there. After the reception of things like the 1964 Bowmores, do you think that like some of those companies didn't go back and be like, I know we're not supposed to do this, but we should probably do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I remember a former company that I worked with, and we were trying. Where they're located, they're are totally allowed to do Paxaretta. I remember sitting down with someone that worked for them and Davin de Kergamo, and he was explaining that he had done some ghetto Paxaret work with another unnamed distillery. And so he knew exactly how to do it. He knew how to pressurize the cask. He knew what temperature it needed to be. He knew what products would be like suitable Paxaret alternatives that you could buy like on shelves in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Canadian distilleries should contact Davin de Kergamo is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, I think like Paxaret and Canadian malt would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. I guess the only thing is like, can all those guys wait the requisite amount of time
No.
for things to become
I'll tell you
quality?
that right now. No.
No, they can't. I mean, that's the challenge is like you look at well, we got some exciting news today. Like Ardnamurchan tenure is finally here. So like Wolfburn, you've got another distillery that's new distillery that's now 10 plus years of age. But like can they afford to sit on things at this point for 30 to 40 years? Probably not.
No.
So
Yeah.
anyway, speed round time.
Yep.
Evan, Harmony, are you guys gonna dig in on this?
All right.
Evan's
The
pick-
orange Pez candy is coming out strong.
Yeah, Evan's pitching a new Netflix series based on Paxarat and Walter White. Walter White's not dead. He's going to be flipping casks.
Yeah. Davin de Kergamo's like his hair's getting there where he could play Walter White.
So my doctor taking vitamin D.
Sorry, it kind of skipped out there, Andrew.
Oh, my doctor recently told me I have to start taking vitamin D tablets. So I found these like chewable citrus vitamin D tablets, and this is what this
Oh
reminds
yeah,
me of.
these are, I was gonna say kids vitamin C tablets, the ones that are
And this-
chewable.
And
Yeah,
that was not an OnlyFans comment. So
Sure.
get your heads out of the gutter. It was strictly
PG.
Yeah.
vitamin D12 or D3 or whatever it is.
It was an OnlyDrams comment, guys.
It was an OnlyDrams comment, right? Exactly.
It's,
You gotta pay for the other comment.
I'm gonna keep moving, Andrew. This Longmorn really did come around, and not at all in the direction I would have ever predicted in a million years. It smells like sherry now. Well, maybe.
It does. It's kind of like Fino-esque though. Like it's got a little bit of like a white balsamic note and this
Yeah.
real tanginess on the nose.
I'd say more Manzanilla than Fino.
Mhm.
How dare you?
How dare I?
Yeah, it's surprisingly salty. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
what a mystery.
That's
But
cool.
it's a fun drink. Like it's certainly wouldn't turn that down.
No, it's tropical fruit and funk and like some weird like salted olives thing going
Yeah.
on, like olive brine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I remember I was in Mexico about a year ago this time, and you get to like the tropical fruit tray at the end of the buffet, and there's like a bunch. You're like, I don't even know what that is, and then you taste it, and you're like, well, it's tropical fruit, but
And then you get Montezuma's revenge because they washed it with the local tap water.
so maybe there's a little bit of Mexican tap water in this
There you go.
Longmorn.
Yeah, it's nice. Evan, Harmony, any thoughts on the long one before we move on?
The Ledaig is amazing.
So that's quite an improvement on your prior comment.
Oh, that's because he's reading my comment.
Yeah.
That I sent him privately.
Yeah, that Ledaig also has this just like really kind of old school feel to it as well. Like you would never go out and try to create distillate like this today.
There they are, the hockey dressing room, like the old hockey dressing room mats.
Yes.
Like that note.
It's extra Neho, like long, lengthy barrel aged mezcal at this point.
Ooh. Yeah. See that?
Yeah, there is kind of this like vegetal bitterness that like builds on the finish like almost unexpectedly.
Yeah, it does have this note
Banana
of like
skin.
if you had a root, like a bag of carrots and turnips that turned on you from your cellar,
Yeah, I mean, just like a whole range of vegetal and savory components.
mm,
Like if you're looking for like the sweet and the fruit, like get away.
all right. Where are we now? So we did the Ledaig, we're on to the Benromach 2003.
Oh, the nose is beautiful.
Yeah, the maltiness on this one that just holds up against the smoke, and the dunnage is remarkable.
It's like like if you could make like old fashioned candies for whiskey drinkers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know I said, looking forward to stuff even that's over 25, but there is something about like just the levels of smoke that these have.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's good. The smoke really creeps in on that.
Yeah.
Second time around, it's got a much more impactful smoke on it than it did the first time through.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
kind of
what a
reminds me
wild
of.
ride of a whiskey though that is.
Mhm. It reminds me of the best parts of Highland Park and Lafroig with their smoke, as it kind of goes
Yeah.
like ethereal, as time goes on in the cask. But you can tell there's just still enough smoke and structure there to just, you could age this for quite a while and still get
Yeah,
it.
if you remember, Evan, those kind of goofy 27 and 28-year-old Lafroigs they released about like 5 or 6 years ago, they on the finish had some similarities with this.
Smells like Team Ledaig says it smells like raw potatoes. It's
A lot to
starchy.
deconstruct in that sentence.
Starchy.
Yeah.
Speaking of someone who doesn't love potatoes, I even less appreciate the raw ones. So
Yeah. I feel like Team Ledaig changed their name just so that they could scratch that off on the bingo card.
was that a bingo card item? James, I don't
Yes,
know
it
if you
was.
heard about this, but for last Tuesday's tasting, there was a bingo card of Andrewisms.
Oh,
Phil and
nice.
Suzanne have got it there in the chat for people to see. The problem is they let me in on it, and as a result, it was not completed.
But have you read it, Andrew?
I'll be honest, I've only skimmed it.
Yeah,
So,
because I would think from today, like there's a lot more you could have scratched off.
well,
I
I
mean, if
mean,
I kept it for last tasting and this tasting, I probably would have had at least one.
I think we
each.
did say it would keep going at the last
Yeah.
tasting. So
We got to make more like different cards that people can download randomly, like card 1 through 5, Evan. They can just randomly pick a card.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
When I have more time to waste at work, I'll build some more.
that's a double-edged sword, as they say.
Yeah.
All right, on to the 2002 Benromach, which I'm delighted to say doesn't smell like raw potatoes. If anything, maybe there's a little bit of like I don't know, like those potato skins, like when you
Yeah.
go to like an old school pub.
You know what strikes me about it, Andrew, is that a lot of these other bottles have opened up more sitting. This one still is kind of stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nose on this is stubborn, but I mean, as we said when we tasted it, like the palate is where this one really goes crazy.
Yeah, it really does. It just like really pops. It's not quite as tropical as the O3, but I mean that's only like relatively speaking.
For me, the fruit comes out more
Yeah.
on this one.
Mhm.
It's got this weird, like, I stand by my like graphic equalizer comment where you got the highs and lows of that are just a little bit more turned up on volume on this one.
Well, I think part of it is that I think the oak is a bit more present on this. It's a little bit more encompassing, and I think maybe those tropical notes are a little bit more hidden. Jeff did share
That's a good point.
Jeff did share, for anyone who wants to see it, the bingo card in the chat. I mean, the bottom right-hand corner has happened at least twice tonight. And the second from bottom right-hand corner, I don't think that happened, actually. I don't know that that's happened in either tasting. I don't know that I have slagged the American whiskey yet.
Yeah.
No, Harmony's saying no, it hasn't happened.
No, you've been very tame.
And you do know that our
Um,
most recent hire comes directly from Corby's, right?
Oh, do they
Let's
know about
go.
the bulldozer?
She did not know about the bulldozer. I was so disappointed, but I didn't send her the video yet. I'll
So
give her a month.
so I met Dave Mitten, who's like their global brand ambassador for their Canadian whiskeys. Doesn't do a ton of work in Canada. And he and I were sitting on a panel about a month ago at a conference. And I was like, hey, Andrew, I don't know if you've heard about me before, but like there was this thing. And he's like, you mean the bulldozer? He's like, that was hilarious. So
People have such mixed reviews over that. They're like,
he's
why
like,
did you do
and he even
that?
knew the guy, I won't mention his name, but the guy who was directly in charge of those whiskeys was really butthurt over the whole thing. And that was the reason why it became a problem. He's like, yeah, it was pretty funny. So anyway, if you don't know what we're talking about the steamroller, I don't know. Someone will put it in the chat. Maybe Evan can put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Andrew, it's not the fact that we created the content that was a problem. It was the fact that somebody at the company had an issue with us creating the content and putting it
Yeah.
online.
I mean, they did approach me and like effectively asked me to promote it. And we did promote it. Anyway, if you do want to look for it, it's probably at the bottom of our YouTube page. But good times.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
there.
I'll add the
Trust me, I
link.
looked.
Okay, Caol Ila 2007. We're getting stuck in the mud here.
Oh man, that smells amazing. There's a bit of a weird metallic, like reminds me of the oil I used to have to use on the trombone.
Evan, was this your Spice Market one? Or was that a different one?
Mhm.
That was a Longmorn.
Oh,
There's a little bit of dill pickle on the finish of this 2007.
because like this one reminds me a little bit of when I went to China and ate a dinner of things I was told not to ask what they were, and everything tasted really good. This was about 2 hours outside of Chengdu. I have no idea where it was, and the dinner was amazing. But yeah,
Tom might win the comment of the day.
trombone oil, James OnlyDrams.
I try not to say it.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Even Jeff is crying. Oh my god. Okay.
All right.
Matthew, thank you for keeping it serious.
Yeah, Matthew, like someone's got to keep
Like
this train.
deadpan, just like, you know what? Back to the tasting note. We needed that.
yeah.
It's
Matthew
got like
says
a
dark
chili
soy
or
sauce with scallops. Thank you,
I
Matthew.
think
Good note.
I think to riff on that, it'd be like soy sauce mixed with chili oil.
Yeah.
Like you got to get like that
Yeah.
hot spice kind of note in there too.
Yeah.
All right. G&M KWM 2002. This would be the
Yeah.
best Caol Ila in the lineup if it were not for the next one.
Yeah. When I tried the cast sample of this, what occurred to me is it's like Betty Crocker vanilla cake and like the candle on your birthday just blew out. And yeah, I love that like vanilla icing character.
Oh, yeah. Some nice sweet tones to that, like you said, the nice vanilla notes, some nice seafood notes in there too. The fruits are coming in. I think this has gotten fruitier over the course of the tasting on the palate. Really expressive. I'm hoping that 98 has gotten bad between now and the last time we went through it, that it's just fallen off of a cliff. Um, it's probably unlikely.
Oh.
We did have 3 of these left. I think there's now 2, just saying. Maybe James can find us more, maybe not. It's hard to
Yeah,
say.
I'm gonna order more. See, that's the thing is that when these types of casks get bottled, it's for North America. I bet you there was like 650 bottles, right? Like they cough out a lot.
Oh man.
Oh, I've got good news. I actually clearly past James could see the future and put 4 more cases that are landing with your 2005 Benromach cask.
All right.
So
Well,
we'll make sure you get some.
I will take the maximum of those you'll give me because that is phenomenal. God. All right. I think it's, I mean, I've already gone back to the Caol Ila. I think that was, if that wasn't clear enough. Harmony, Kurt, or Evan. I don't know why I'm calling you Kurt tonight.
I'll
Yeah,
take it
there's
as
all
a
sorts of
compliment.
Freudian stuff
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was,
Yeah, the cola notes on that final Caol Ila are just really, really cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like chicken wings and celery to me.
Yeah, I could see that going into celery salt even.
Yeah.
A little bit of Caesar rim on there.
It's like when you cook chicken wings like in a cast iron pan.
Mm-hmm.
I have not drank enough to give you my tasting notes, so my filter is fairly open, but there is a bottom to it, and it takes a lot for me to cross the bottom of said filter. So if you were wondering, it is definitely there.
Jeez.
The big O over this tram. I didn't want to like this. It's true as much as I do. Like I think that's a compliment to this particular whiskey. So
Well, if you like this style of whiskey, Andrew, we've got 4 30-year-old very similar style of sherry butts incoming in the next month here. So
we do lots of
no shortage of good stuff. G&M's coughing up.
There isn't, and I mean, one of the ones we're gonna try is it next week is the Egoversary tasting, right?
Yeah.
We've got that G&M 30-year-old MacPhail's in it.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is lots of good stuff. All right, we should trigger the poll here. Oh, there are 3 questions. We always wonder about that. So you get to pick your favorites and a question about Caol Ila. While people are figuring that out, Harmony, Evan, have you guys had a chance to pick your favorites in tonight's lineup? I think they're too engrossed in the chat.
I was reading
go.
question 3 because I didn't write them, so I
The
didn't
chat,
know.
I think the chat is the winner tonight. The chat won.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just gonna call it. The chat wins tonight.
And we don't post the chats, do we?
No.
No.
It's like
That would
bittersweet.
be
We could
dangerous.
technically AI mine the chat if we wanted.
Eh.
That is a level of expertise and effort that I think goes above and beyond what we would actually do. But
I feel like AI would, like, when trying to harvest like actual knowledge, would just reject this chat
Well,
outright.
I think
Huh.
the chat in itself is the reason why those AI generated images are garbled and can never spell things correctly.
Probably.
All right. Anyway, Harmony. Do you have
Benromach,
favorites?
KWM Cask.
Okay.
I need like
Okay.
a moment with that.
Okay.
It's so fantastic. I didn't think I was going to say this, but you did it. It's your fault. You put 3 Caol Ilas in one tasting, and it's the 2007 for me, not because I don't like the sherried 1998, but because I know it's got plenty of love, so I don't need to. And then I love the Ledaig, but that Longmorn was kind of cool. Okay. There's a lot of really good whiskeys here. I'm gonna go KWM Benromach, Caol Ila 2007, and because I had nothing left in my glass, the Glentauchers 2008.
Oh, dark
I really
horse.
enjoyed that.
Dark horse. All right, Evan.
Nice. Ledaig number 1. Benromach really close. RKWM Cask at number 2, and then number 3, just because it changed so much in the tasting, and the nose on it right now is gorgeous, is the Longmorn, as Harmony said.
Evan, I think I could have picked those for you,
Of course it could.
Yeah, but I respect that. I respect that. I'll actually let you pick what you think my three favorites are. I'll let James go first and give you a second to think about that though. James, your three favorites.
Yeah, okay, just quickly, when I went to high school, I went to Brookswood Secondary, super ghetto, like full asbestos high school. We had one vending machine, and it actually was in French. It said Deli Sank, like Five Alive, and I must have drank about 10,000 Deli Sanks over my 5 years of high school. I'm always chasing that flavor. My number one of the night was the 2003 Benromach, and my number two was the Longmorn.
Mm-hmm.
And number three was the Ledaig.
Wow. Okay. All right, Evan. Do you think
Okay.
you know my three favorites?
I am going to guess your number one would be the 2002 Benromach KWM Cask.
I'll let you keep going. I'll let you know.
Okay. Next up would be the 98 Caol Ila.
Okay.
And after that this is a toss-up. I think it would probably be the 2003 Benromach or our Caol Ila KWM Cask.
Okay. All right. Close. I'm going the 98 Caol Ila. I didn't want to, but it's my favorite. Then the 2002 KWM Benromach. This is where James and I differ. I think there's more Five Alive in the 2002 than the 2003, but that's just personal.
Yeah, it's just wearing a fur coat.
Maybe it's the altitude. It's the altitude. It's the difference you're at sea level, we're at 3,000 feet. That's the difference. And then I'm gonna go 2002 Caol Ila KWM because I have to. I will say this though, and I've made this note in a tasting before. This is above my bar, my threshold. The Longmorn is there's poo on your finger, and you need to smell it.
No.
Because you like it, but
No.
but it's it's gross, but you can't stop smelling it. That is Longmorn of tonight.
You are such a boy.
Just saying.
Most people have that thought of, I'm going to speak for the women. I think most people, if they have that thought, would just go, no, just go wash your hands. Just go. Don't know.
Harmony, you need to change a few more diapers. I think that's what's missing.
I have changed plenty.
Just to be
I'm
clear,
the oldest of 20-something cousins.
Just to be clear,
and I'm the only one without kids, so I get given the kids when at all times. I'm good. And I'm never like, yeah, let's get more of that.
Just to be clear, I'm all for the washing of the hands, but if something is intriguing, I'm gonna smell it. So anyway.
That's life. That's life.
I'm ending the poll. Most of you have voted. The results, I'd say are kind of encouraging. I like to see the results here. We've got the Benromach 2002 KWM edges out the Caol Ila 1998.
Wow.
That is a win. We will take it. Votes for the Ledaig, as well as the Caol Ila, the Benromach 2003, and the Longmorn. And then second favorite, look at that, Benromach 2003 and the Caol Ila 2002 KWM. So I think everybody got a vote except the Longmorn. Is that right? Yeah, everybody got a vote except the Longmorn got a vote.
Yeah, Evan and I aren't changing our votes, by the way. Sorry.
Anyway, three different. James, you and Evan are much closer to having children in diapers than I am. So maybe that's why.
You know what, that Longmorn, now that it's really set, it's kind of getting some like talc powder character going.
Yeah.
I could see that. Baby powder.
All right. Evan's cheeky third question. 3 different Caol Ilas in one tasting. Too much. Way too much. My delicate flower of a palate cannot handle it. All this peat. That was answer number 1. Only got 1 vote. Not enough. My tongue and soul are numb to all but the dirtiest, oily brine and filthiest of peat-fired pits. That edged out slightly. It could be worse. With two A's. Was that intentional, Evan, or not?
No,
No,
that was
okay.
me trying to get a third pull in there fast.
At least it wasn't three different Lechegs. I'm surprised that didn't. No. It should have been not enough. I think not enough
Yeah.
was the correct answer. So
Yeah.
people got there. They got there. Lady and gentlemen, that was a great tasting tonight. I hope everybody else who took part in it enjoyed it. James, do you want to quickly mention, like you did say before, there's some cool things coming in.
Oh, boys are ever. I know. I kind of just decided to just order on the front end of the year and just give myself the rest of the year to sell through stuff. And yeah, there's 17 new Gordon MacPhail SKUs coming over 2 orders in the next 3 months. So yeah, there's a 30-year-old Balblair. There's a 29-year-old Benromach. There's it's a long list. There's a 30-year-old Ledaig. There's some cool cask picks that have been made by private customers that'll find their way. There's a cool 19-year-old Inchgour that'll probably find its way into the store. There's actually one more Canada exclusive coming down the pipe. It's a 24-year-old Scapa that, if you remember that 1995 Highland Park, it very much falls in that category of just like a lovely old American oak sherried Scapa. I just fell in love with it, and it's really, really well priced. Yeah, it's a fun list of stuff coming.
Well, and James, I think was that the Scapa that we were looking at, and we really
Yes.
liked it, but we just could not make it work.
Yeah, no, it made more sense for me to split it across. But it's funny because the price that you asked for, eventually I just wore Richard down and got that price, but it was too late for you. So
No, and I mean we've already got, well, the Benromach, the Caol Ila in this tasting. We've got the Benromach that's coming, which
yes.
is the oldest sherry cask of Benromach to come to Canada yet. Single cask. So no, yeah, we're well looked after.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone that's on this chat, you know what? Just pause your brain and we'll create some sort of tasting with the Strath-Isla. By the way, distillery labels in this shipment. So we'll start with the Strath-Isla, then we'll go directly to that Scapa, and then we'll taste all those 30-year-old cherry bombs.
It's gonna be
So yeah, it'll be like $500 a tasting kit, but
no, it won't be that much.
no, actually, spoiler alert, actually the price of those 30-year-olds actually came down from the last 2 years. So I mean slightly,
Yeah,
but it's a good sign.
it is a good sign. It is a good sign of things to come. Harmony, did you change your photo to Phil? That is really confusing. His daughter's name is Isla. Anyway, I'm not sure where that's
It
going.
doesn't count, Phil and Sue. It's
Yeah,
Evan
that's
who
right.
has to gush over it.
Oh, they're trying to
trick
fill out the
you.
bingo card.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bragging rights for you.
So I will say this. I mean, we do love a certain Glen something cheese baked thing. But my current favorite are the God, what the hell's the name of it? There's a new place that I like the croissants from. We'll save this for the next tasting. It's on 14th Street, just north of 17th Avenue. We'll leave it at that for now. James, thanks for doing this tonight. Harmony, Evan, thank you. Everybody, thanks for taking part in the tasting. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll see some of you next week for the Egoversary tasting, where James will be special guest for as much of it as he's got time for. Anyway, thanks everybody.